Hey, peeps. Thanks for joining again at the Lighten Up Project. My name is Malcolm Grissom. I am the stand-up CEO and founder of Laughter Organization, and you're not. Today on the Lighten Up Project, I am so pleased to have yet another member in this global community that we are creating. Today we're going to be talking about what happens after a life-altering mistake and how redemption begins on a step at a time. My guest today is Matthew Melvin. After a very impulsive decision at Vermont car dealership, it led to 18 months out, an arrest, of course, and then 18 months in prison. And in prison, Matthew faced isolation, he faced bullying, he faced violence, experiences that tested his identity, his faith, and his will to survive. But this isn't a story solely about incarceration. It's really a story about accountability. It's a story about resilience and finding strength in the middle of deep adversity. I'm making up words. Adversity, deep adversity. He's written a book called Bullied Behind Bars, and he reflects on a lifetime of feeling like an outsider and what it means to rebuild after everything falls apart. In this conversation, we'll be talking about responsibility, about redemption, courage to move forward when your past doesn't define your future. So let's lighten up, lean in, and welcome Matthew Melvin.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a real pleasure.
You're welcome. Do you prefer Matthew or Matt?
My mother calls me Matthew.
Matthew! Okay, so I'll call you Matt. All right. So Matt, would you like to join me in 20 seconds of spontaneous laughter? There you go. That makes me feel good every time I do it. So Matt, tell us, what is your relationship with laughter?
Laughter is critical in my daily journey. Life is so serious. People don't understand that life can be amazing fun, or it can be a draw, a task. And I try to go to the world with some laughter, because we can be serious and die miserable, or we can choose to have fun and be excited. And everything that we do, Malcolm, is a choice. I can choose to be fun, exciting, gregarious, or I could choose to be miserable. But let me ask you this. Who wants to be around a miserable, sad person? Nobody. I don't.
That is so true. Where in your life do you like to laugh and you don't hold back on the laughter and the play? And then where in your life do you find yourself holding back?
Certainly in the workplace, it's a little challenging with different dynamics of people. I find that some people it's easier to laugh with, and other folks it's much harder. It depends on the relationship. I look at it this way. I have different categories of relationship. And every relationship I have is different. There's no two people that have the exact same relationship.
True. Right. So, those, so on that, are you saying that there are some people in which you are in a relationship with that you can laugh
Yes.
together, and then
Right.
others that you can't laugh together?
I would say there's certain people that I haven't gotten comfortable enough to feel that I can be vulnerable.
Ah, okay. So laughter laughter is really vulnerable. Oh, if for you um, it takes a certain vulnerability, a certain comfort level with the other person to be able to laugh.
No question. Yes.
Okay. What about play? What about just play? So, laughter, if you or anyone else was to go and listen to, I believe it was episode 3 in season 1, where it's called The Humor Tree. And I talked about the definition of humor, and I broadened it because a lot of people in society have a very narrow definition of humor. And so I broadened it, and it really encompasses that natural play, that natural sense of humor, the sense of play that everyone had as a child. So do you feel with these people that you don't really have a close relationship with, and I can completely understand you there, but do you feel that even with those people you can play in any type of way?
It depends to what extent. Obviously, with sexual harassment policies today, I think each one of us needs to be able to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, which is sometimes challenging for people to do. But it's really important. Before I open my mouth, I want to think about, if somebody else said the same thing that I'm going to say to this person, how would I feel? Or would I even say it?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, going off that, so what is one small habit that you do that, because you mentioned like sexual harassment, and I know there's a lot of the world is or I shouldn't say the world, but I should say that there are a lot of areas in our culture, in the American culture, that are more and more conservative. And so there's less and less of a feeling that we can play, that we can laugh.
Right. Because we live in the United States of offenses, where everybody's offended with what everybody else says.
Yes. 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 And so, what's one small habit that keeps you staying human when life does that to you? When life says, "Okay, yes, it's offensive for you to be non-human. You have to be in this box here." What's one small habit you doing you give yourself in life that gives Matt the permission to just be Matt, to just have fun and play?
By singing to the whatever high degree I want to listen to and not care what other people
think. Yes, I like that. Yes, very good, very good. So, Matt, before we talk too much about we'll get into your background and your story, because I know fascinating story, and I definitely want to talk more about your book. So let me ask you, when have you felt most like yourself, and what was happening in that particular moment?
I feel most like myself when I'm able to come on these podcasts and talk about my experiences, because I don't feel like I'm judged. I feel like I'm able to share my testimony, which may be different than other people's testimony, but I think anybody can take away a lesson from my story and learn something.
Sure. Okay. And before we hear your story, what lesson first of all, should everyone take the same lesson away, or would that lesson look different for different people?
I believe that the lesson would be different for each person. Whether you've been in prison or not, my book is still a great read, because I know a lot of people who are in a mental prison. In other words, they're allowing other people to live rent-free in their head. I was at a physical prison. Well, the guards had my body, they didn't have my mind. And I think a mental prison is far worse than a physical prison.
Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So let us go back to tell the story from the beginning. How did you land up in prison, and what happened in prison?
The first time I worked at a car dealership and the car dealership did not pay me my commissions, I impulsively chose to sell one of their cars, got caught. Judge Jeffrey Crawford and Bob Wolford both decided I didn't meet the criteria to go through the mental health court. As a result, I went through the traditional court, came out with a record, couldn't pass a background check. As a result, in 2009, I used other people's information to pass that background check. The government pursued me for 6 years, got a grand jury indictment against me in 2016. I did another 18 months. That's where I wrote my story. I went to 10 different institutions. I had all sorts of horrible things happen to me while in prison. But rather than dwell on what happened to me, I want to focus on being a thriver today. In other words, I had a near-death experience in August 2015 where I was almost killed by an out-of-control driver. That to me was the sign where God was drawing a line in the sand saying, you're either going to do my will or you're going to continue to do your own will. You're going to go to prison, come out, go back to prison, come back out. And it's going to be this vicious cycle of insanity, doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. And I didn't want that for my life. I wanted to have change. I wanted to free myself of all that anger, hate, resentment I was holding on to, not only to me, but also to other people. I forgave everybody who had done wrong to me. I forgave myself. And I started loving myself, accepting who I am, and not caring what other people think. What other people think of me is none of my business.
Well, the way you just said it, that you forgave other people, you forgave yourself, you made that sound so easy. And people who have gone through these situations know it's not easy at all. So could you tell us, break it down and tell us some more of those steps, unpack that? What did forgiving other people look like for you?
Forgiving other people look like not holding other people captive in my head, not allowing them to live in my head, forgiving them. And forgiveness is not forgetting. I think that that's really, really important. And in order to do that, I was journaling. And that for me was cathartic to get everything out that was going on with me and being able to release that. And understanding that it's God's place to judge, not mine. And for 35 years, I had been judging others. And look at where it had ended up. I had been in prison twice. I was a very angry person. I was living with a lot of unforgiveness, and I didn't really like myself. And until I started freeing myself of all those burdens and choosing to start living authentic and living an honest lifestyle.
And was this the same process you went through to forgive yourself?
Yes. It starts with forgiving yourself, because if you don't forgive yourself, you don't love yourself, you can't love or forgive another person. And look, it's just like Bill's big book of AA. It's that inventory process. All those 12 steps, I'm not an alcoholic, but all of those steps are very, very useful in everything that life throws at you. Finding that accountability partner that's going to hold me accountable for my actions, and somebody that's not going to sugarcoat things, be very direct and honest about feedback. And we as human beings need constructive criticism in an I statement rather than the you, we, they statements, which removes all personal accountability and responsibility.
So now, what would you say to the people out there, if there are people out there, and I wouldn't be surprised there were saying, I don't have any self for. What do you mean forgive myself? What would you say to people who have this block, first of all, in their heads that keep them from even forgiving themselves, much less anyone else?
They need to find somebody that's going to be direct and honest with them, because I can't always see things that are going on with me. I think it's really important to ask another person, what do you see in me that you think I need to change? Because in finding people that can be direct and honest, and sometimes that's hard, but sugarcoating, lying, people pleasing is all deception, and it serves no purpose. Everybody needs to find somebody in their life that can hold them accountable for their actions. And really go to the deep end of the pool. That's really important for me, having those strong connections with men and women that are willing to be vulnerable. Because a lot of people use sports, video games, whether it's a defense mechanism, because there's no risk. But without the risk, there's no reward. And until I started doing men's work in 2022, when I started seeing men being vulnerable on a carpet, I saw how much pain other guys were going
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's go on with the scenario. So this person out there has found someone else, and that other person has told them, hey, look, I see a lot of it. I look at you, I see a lot of anger. I see that you're angry at things. And of course, they're going to be responding like, no, I'm not angry. What do you mean angry? Please. So they have this other person. This other person is telling them, look, I see there's some anger there. So this would be a two-part question. One, let's take it from the standpoint of the person that's being told this, the person that doesn't think that they have anger, but they're being told by someone who's close to them that, hey, you're angry, dude. What is that person's next step? What should or could that person's next step be?
How is that anger serving?
So asking that question, and so it's not. It's not.
What is it going to take for you to free yourself of that burden?
Jeez, I don't know. I'd never thought. I don't know. I guess I can be nicer to people.
What would that look like?
More. Doing something nice for people. Even if it's holding the door open sometimes.
How about using please and thank you?
Yeah. Yeah, I could do that.
You have to take small steps.
Uh-huh.
You have to crawl before you can walk.
Right. Okay. Good. Now, let's take that from the other point of view now. So that person who cares deeply for this other person sees that there is in that other person and that anger is holding them back. And the person says, hey, I see this anger, but they're rejected. What would you say to that other person to keep them engaged?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this relationship to you? 0 being, if this person leaves you today, I don't care. 10 being, you take a bullet for this person.
6.
So there's not, it's sort of it's a lukewarm relationship. I guess what value is this person bringing to the friendship? That's what I always think. What value is this other person bringing to me? How are they serving? Do they bring me down all the time with negativity or criticism, or do they build me up? You look at a glass, right? You can see it as either half empty or half full. It just depends on your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I choose to surround myself with positive people because the world is so negative. It's so toxic. I don't need any of that in my life. I want men and women in my life that will build me up.
Now, in my book, what you're explaining is someone being vulnerable, and there's strength in vulnerability. There's a lot of strength in vulnerability. What's one belief about strength that you have had to unlearn through your experiences?
I don't need other people to validate.
To do what to you?
To validate.
Okay. Yeah.
If I rely on other people for their feedback, I will always be disappointed. If I expect Malcolm's going to call me at 6 o'clock and he calls me at 6:30, I'm disappointed. But if I look at it like, oh, Malcolm called me, yes. So there's always a different perspective to look at something, a different way of interpreting things. We can always interpret things either positively or negatively. It just depends on the human psyche. And it all goes back to what we're bringing into our body, how we're feeding our emotions, what we're watching. All of that matters. You know, the people that I find that are the most unhappy are those people that are drinkers or drug users, or they're in a lot of pain because they're using medication to fix something that's internal. I have never taken a drug, alcohol, and I'm in probably the best condition I've ever been in my life. I lost 100 pounds, Malcolm, and I never once set foot in a gym. I'm very much against gym because a lot of men and women go to gyms to look at pretty men and women. That's lust. Guess what? Lust is a huge addiction men and women have.
Have you, how have you, or how would you handle a confrontation? And when I say confrontation, I don't necessarily mean a big conflict, just mean meeting each other. How would you handle a meeting with someone in your old life who might misunderstand who you are now or what transformations you've gone through?
I'm not the same person I was. Jesus has come into my life and made me a different person. I was a very angry person for most of my life, very bitter, held on to a lot of hate and resentment, and I freed myself. And it was not easy by any means. It took a lot of work. But I choose to live life to the fullest. And those people that want to bring me down, I cut them off and let them go their own way. Because I want people that can uplift me. And, you know, sometimes we come to the world to take space, and other times we come to make space. But if you're in a relationship with somebody that's always taking space or somebody that's always making space, that's not a balanced friendship. A balanced friendship should be 50-50.
What would you say to someone who's in an imbalanced relationship?
Why are you in this relationship? In sales, we're taught SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. When I'm assessing a sales call or I'm assessing a sales colleague, I use that to figure out where this client is, where this person is, whether I can help them. Because if there's more weaknesses than strengths, probably not somebody I want to be around. Somebody that can't identify their own weaknesses or their own strengths, and I have to point them out. It all starts from how organized your car is. If your car is clean and you don't have a cracked windshield and your dashboard isn't lit up like a Christmas tree, I guarantee you your house is pretty clean. But if you have a cracked windshield and your whole dashboard is lit up and your car is a mess, your life is a mess. And in sales, the hardest people to work with are disorganized people, because guess what? People revert back to what they know. So if you're a disorganized person and I get you organized, within a week, you'll be back to what you know.
So that's an interesting statement. So let's take that. So you've gone through this transformation, right? You have given up the anger. Given up is the wrong word. You've let go of a lot of the anger. You said, a different person. Now, judging from or taking what you just said, what's the difference between, how do you know next week you're not going to go back and become the Matthew Melvin that you used to be?
That's a hard question. It's all about a choice. I mean, I make a choice not to do that.
Right. All comes down to choice. So where is what in your life now that you were afraid to laugh about, or you were afraid to be playful with, that has changed?
Well, I want to set something straight. Fear has never gripped me at all. I'm a very fearless guy. I've always spoken my mind. I will always continue to speak my mind because that's how I am. I'm a very direct person. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm not a people pleaser. What you see is what you get. I wear my emotions on my sleeve.
Yes.
There's a song called Not For Everyone by Brothers Osborne, and that is my go-to song.
How long have you been this way? Like,
since I went to near-death experience. And really saw God watching out for me, protecting me, drawing that line in the sand and saying, you know, I had believed in God my entire life, but the difference is I now trusted God. And a lot of people may believe in God, but they don't trust God. And trusting God requires faith, and you have to have faith the size of a mustard seed. You have to read that Bible. You have to accept Genesis 1:1, because if you don't accept Genesis 1:1, might as well close the Bible, move on. That's it. Faith is something that you cannot see. It's not tangible.
Very true. Very, very true. Now, do you mind if I ask you, I ask you, do you mind if I ask you? And then I ask you anyway. Let me table that question for a moment. That question in my mind. Let me table that question. So, what is the relationship between God and laughter?
I've never been asked that. I think laughter is important to bring to the world because it's the only thing that will set us free from all of the burdens that life brings.
Okay, so Jesus sets us free. and Jesus is teaching. So, I mean, that's what I thought I heard you say earlier. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe you can clarify this for me. So, what I thought I heard you say earlier was that God, Jesus, and the belief, our choice to believe in God and Jesus, is that sets us free. And now you're saying that laughter is the only thing that sets us free. So are you saying that laughter and God and Jesus are all the same, or they're related?
They're related.
Okay. All right. And now you said, though, that faith is an intangible. It's something that we can't see. And I don't think that God wants us this. He wants us to have faith, to believe.
Right. We have to have faith that Jesus went to the cross. He died for our sins. If people got ready for Jesus like they get ready for a winter storm, we would be in a much better world. People go to the store, they buy shelves and shelves of Kleenex and toilet paper, all for a winter storm. People need to get ready for a winter storm for Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so, yes, I see that. And how exactly, and, or do you know? I mean, you said they are related, but do you know, and can you tell us how you believe laughter and Jesus and God are related?
Jesus had a sense of humor. We all need to have a sense of humor.
We all do have a sense of humor, because humor is play. Humor is that connection that we all had when we came into this world, right? And that was our sense of humor. And so, yes, we all have that sense of humor. And yeah, I guess that is right. So you're saying that we are sharing that. I mean, our sense of humors are different, but the fact that we all have a sense of humor, as did Jesus, and God, that's how it's all related. Is that what you're saying?
Everything related.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Everything is related in some capacity.
Yes, I do agree. I do agree with that. So, Matt, could you tell us about your book? Tell us more about your book.
My book is called Bullied Behind Bars, A Gay Christian Trump Supporter Goes to Prison. I wrote it the second time I was in prison because I was at 10 different institutions over the course of 18 months. I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement. That's where I started creating and starting these really healthy disciplines that I have helped me today. Praying, exercising, reading my Bible, fasting, eating healthy. And those disciplines have helped me to be the man I am today.
Is it? So tell us, Matt, and I do have in the show notes, I have the links to get the book and So that's in the show notes. But tell us, what is one thing that you would like our listeners to remember when this episode ends?
Forgive yourself, forgive others, love yourself, love others.
All right. Great. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Matt. So, thank you, Matt, for joining us this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in to this interesting and sometimes controversial, borderline controversial episode. I really appreciated the conversation. Thank you, Matt. I hope that everybody out there appreciated the conversation. I hope that you keep coming back next Thursday. Yet another stimulating conversation. And until next Thursday, please remember, every smile can open, every laugh can open a heart, and every step can be your next victory. Until next week, thanks so much, y'all. Keep it light. Thanks, Melvin. Or Matt, Melvin, calling you by your last name. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Stressed out, stuck, or leading on autopilot? It's not a motivational problem. It's a connection problem. My weekly virtual improv classes boost engagement, collaboration, and retention, all while having fun. Register now for a complimentary month.